Thingiverse is a website for the 3D printing design community. Users of Thingiverse can freely download designs. They can modify pre-existing designs and upload their versions, or they can combine multiple designs and create something new. We looked at designs that were submitted to Thingiverse over the course of more than 3 years. It was more than 16,000 designs, and some of the success metrics we were interested in were the number of likes of any given design, the number of makes, meaning how many people downloaded that design, 3D printed it, took a picture of it, and then later uploaded that picture back to Thingiverse. And because of the Prezi logo, you cannot really see it. So the number of tile designs. So how many designs were inherited ideas from that design later on. We were also interested in measuring novelty in a more objective way than the ones currently used. Most of the scientists looking at how people innovate and create something novel usually focus on either analyzing the network attributes of the process, or they usually evaluate innovation from more in a qualitative way, which sometimes can be somewhat subjective. So we adopted a method primarily used in computer graphics, and what that method basically does when comparing two given designs is focus on their shape differences. So basically the distance we would get from implementing that method will give us an understanding of how different they are from the geometrical perspective. So such a method not only allows us to understand the individual contribution of someone in Thingiverse and in the process of adopting others' ideas, but it's a bit loud, but also it allows us to compare any given Thingiverse design with any design that was submitted on Thingiverse before it. So in a multi-dimensional space where its dimension is any prior design, we can understand whether the design that is proposed or submitted has in its relative neighborhood any other designs. So that's an understanding of how novel the design was at the time of submission. Something that probably we expected was that novelty was associated with popularity, meaning that more novel designs, the way I described being as novel, were also more popular compared to imitative design or less novel designs. But somewhat unexpectedly, we also saw that practicality was associated with novelty, meaning that designs that were more novel also tended to be printed more. In addition, we were interested in the value of openness, meaning whether participants of Thingiverse were actually deriving some value out of their participation in an open collaboration environment like Thingiverse. And to test that, we categorized designs depending on whether they had inherited ideas from any other prior design in Thingiverse, or they were standalone designs, meaning that the whole creation process happened outside Thingiverse. And again, as you can see, inherited designs outperformed standalone designs, both in terms of likes and in terms of makes. And going a step further on the inherited designs, we classified them depending on the total number of parents these designs had. And as you can see, designs that had more parents tended to receive a higher number of likes. Focusing on designs with only one parent, it seemed that the best strategy designers could follow would be to build upon prior creations of theirs, suggesting that a more modular process should be followed when inheriting from only one design. Also, when we looked at designs with two parents, it seemed that the optimal strategy that someone could follow would be to use one of his prior designs and one design of someone else's, given that his final design will be closer, more similar to his prior design. Another part of the work we're currently exploring is related to lead users. Lead users from the academic perspective are people that face needs that others will focus in the future. And also they are typically people that will benefit more from proposed solutions. Why these people might be interesting is that in open collaboration environments like Thingiverse, a fraction of the people contributes the majority of the content. So in Wikipedia, 1% of the editors contributes more than half of the content, and in Thingiverse, 5% of the users contributes about half of all designs. And usually where people would focus in academic papers, at least, is the contribution. So how many designs do, just the number of designs someone has submitted in total, which usually is a good metric, but as you can see, it's not very accurate. So with that intuition, we realized that might not be the best metric to have. So as you can see, some of the people keep showing up in the top 10 list in all categories, but not everyone is, there's no one that is always top. So we wanted to find a more sophisticated metric for how we can actually evaluate the contribution of someone in an open collaboration environment like Thingiverse. So to test whether contribution would be a good metric, we classified users depending on how often they would contribute. So blue is people that on average they would contribute a design every 3 weeks or less, and people with under orange are all the people that followed a much longer production cycle. And as you can see, people that would follow a much longer production cycle were performing much better. So that kind of justifies why a more sophisticated evaluation might make sense. So from these 5 attributes, if we get them down to 2, you can see that there are a bunch of users that distinguish themselves from the pack. And also, we were interested in understanding whether designers, we would be able to identify lead users early on. And this is just a representation in 3D of the metrics I showed you before. And on the upper left side, you can see that what we did was basically just take the very first design of Thingiverse users and then classify them in 3 categories. So people classified as green were people that their very first design performed quite well. Yellow was about average, and red was performed well in their very first design. And as you can see, especially people that didn't perform very well, basically they quickly stopped contributing. So as you can see, after 20 designs or 50 designs, people classified as green or high performance in their first design basically take over the contribution. Finally, we looked at designers that had at least 25 designs and classified them again as with whether their popular design their very first design was popular or unpopular. And as you can see, although it seems to be a pattern that people start catching up, so there is a learning involved in the community. Even after 25 designs, people that didn't perform well in their first design still didn't catch up with better designers initially. So our work focuses on predicting design success early on, so understanding just by the attributes of the design whether it will be successful or not. We also want to build a system that will suggest remixes to potential makers and inventors, and finally identify early on and support lead users. I think that would be all. Any questions? Okay, so yeah, thank you. Well, so the question was if we have used our method in anything else besides Thingiverse. So the novelty metric, because it's based upon 3D designs, it is difficult to be applied somewhere else because we need to also have success metrics. So it's kind of limited in any digital format of an object. So for that one, no. We've been looking at other open innovation communities like GitHub, and some patterns exist, but we're early on in our analysis, so I cannot really say yes or no. Thank you. Yep.
How about other 3D printing communities like Faire?
Yeah, it's a good question. So So the question was whether we have checked other 3D printing communities like Shapeways. So Shapeways has some of their designs as freely download, so people can freely download them, but doesn't support remixing. So it's difficult for us to keep track of what's going on there. And on top of that, the vast majority of designs on Shapeways are not even available. You just order the 3D part and you get the physical object. So yeah, it was something we're looking at, but we haven't done it so far.
By far, that's like the biggest community of
Yeah, well, it has probably the largest repository, although Thingiverse now with the customizer has a lot of designs also, but Thingiverse by far is the largest open repository, so that was what we were interested in. Okay, any other questions? Yep.
Can I get more insight into design? Like, is there any designs which are like specific to 3D printing as opposed to other designs which are not doing it? Was there any correlation between the quality of the design to lead users or something like that?
Well, quality will be probably difficult to justify. That's why we were interested in novelty and wanted to compare it to any other given design. However, there is a pattern in the complexity, meaning that designs that had more parts also tended to be highly likable. But however, they were less made, so people tended to also make those designs less because probably of the complexity of figuring it out later. Okay. So thank you very much. If you have